I created you. That means I know better than you, and I have more power than you. So shut up and take it and thank me for it.
Hey everybody, I'm Jim Majors, atheist leader, public speaker, and host of the YouTube channel Disciple of Kairos. And you're watching another great video by Atheist Edge.
The number of the beast is actually 616. The oldest reference to the satanic number is found in Papyrus 115, a collection of 26 fragments of the Book of Revelation, dated at around 250 CE. It names 616 as the number of the beast, not 666 as found in later manuscripts.
Honestly, could you just not pull any number out of your ass and say that's the mark of the beast? I mean, you kind of like the 666 thing. It kind of trips off the tongue. But, I mean, to think for a moment that it couldn't have been anything, you're making this shit up anyway. So, but no, I never heard that 616 was the real deal.
And I've also heard that even the reference in the canonical Revelation is just a mistranslation because I guess the number 1 and the number 6 look really similar in Hebrew. I don't know if that's true or not. Either way, you're right. It's just dumb numerology, and some prophet had a bad nightmare or maybe ate some mushrooms that didn't agree with him. Who knows?
Yeah, that's probably more, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Islam advocates the beheading of non-believers. Remember, when your Lord inspired to the angels, I am with you, so strengthen those who have believed. I will cast terror into the hearts of those who disbelieved, so strike them upon their necks and strike from them every fingertip.
It's almost like they don't want you questioning the belief.
Would you say some religions are more dangerous to society than others?
Oh yeah, there's no question. Yeah, there are some religions that they're stricter in the penalties that they'll put on their members of their tribe if they don't agree with the doctrine. So yeah, there are some religions that are more, the stakes are higher for people who are in it if they say that I don't believe it. In Islam, in the extreme, it could be death, like you just pointed out. They have a doctrinal justification for that action. There are other religions like Jehovah's Witnesses where you may get shunned. They won't talk with you. Your parents will disown you if you say, I don't believe this anymore. So there are penalties from religion to religion, and some seem to be more strict than others.
This is kind of, I'll take you on a little walk here, but I'll bring you right back to the point. There has to be times when you're out there in the field and you feel not as safe as other times. Do you ever fear for your safety? Are you more careful in your wording than maybe with someone of another religion?
So I haven't been in too many situations where I've encountered hardcore, passionate Muslims who made me worry for my own safety. That hasn't been my experience at all. I have had a lot of conversation with Muslims, and overwhelmingly they were calm and respectful. And I didn't hold back. There wasn't a question that I ever didn't ask because I was worried or anything like that. There was one instance where, this was back early, I don't know if you remember, when I was going out in front of the Alamo gym and talking to the street preachers. Well, there was one Sunday that I went there and the street preachers hadn't showed up yet, but there were these 5 or 6 Muslim guys, and they were kneeling, they were praying basically. It was awesome. They were praying almost exactly where the street preachers stand to congregate before they walk up and preach and then come back. So they had just showed up, and then they were doing their thing, and the street preachers were arriving, and the look on their faces when these Muslims were there praying in their spot, it was precious. But I ended up interviewing them, and I had my camera, but I'm pretty sure they said, please don't ever upload this. So I was literally interviewing 5, and this was early on. I wasn't the best at what I was doing, but I didn't really feel too worried. Man, the thought crosses your mind, like, what are the implications? Now, maybe if I had uploaded it and I didn't hold up my end of the agreement, to not upload the video, then maybe there would have been some repercussions. But
did you know that the Jesus fish seen on bumper stickers on cars around the world is a pagan astrological symbol? Before the Christians pilfered it, the symbol was used by the Syrians and Romans to represent Ichthys, the child of the mermaid-like Atheist, the pagan goddess of fertility and well-being. The symbol also plays an important role in other tales. For example, as the fish of the Nile, Ichthys swallowed Osiris's penis after Isis had finished having sex with Osiris's corpse. I like how, again, people ignore the capitalist side of these stickers. People are making profit from this. An interesting side note on this, temples in Egypt were pilfered by Coptic Christians who took any phallus they could get, believing certain images were inhabited by demons, and that's why this sketch of where Osiris's penis should be is depicted with wavy lines, because the original may have been taken. Christian conservatives would have no clue to the origins and the legend of Ichthys, and how this would denigrate the symbolism of the fish and its association with Jesus. They would have a field day when they, if and when they find out this symbol's association with a penis-eating fish.
Tennessee Williams said, all the Western theologies are based on the concept of God as a senile delinquent. So what to make of this quote? God as a senile delinquent. Well, there definitely is the, senile, old. We definitely have a very long-standing sort of concept of God as the sort of ancient of days, the pre-existent being, the very, very, very old man in the clouds, right? So that is it's a simplified way of thinking about God as an old man in the clouds. But that is also kind of the way that the ancients conceived of the king of the gods, right? The head of the head of the godhood, the head of the palace of the gods, the court of the gods, all the other gods that existed, right? So remember, in ancient Mesopotamia, there were loads of gods. Every different ethnic group had its own personal god, right? So there was Chemosh for the Moabites. There was Baal Hadad. There was Milcom. There was all these other gods, and Yahweh, the God of the Hebrews, was just one of this pantheon, and all of them had this sort of basic concept of, okay, there's all these particular gods for all these different ethnic groups, but then there's the God on top, God of gods, El Elyon, who is the king of them all and the father of them all, frankly. And what eventually happened within the tradition of Judaism, which Christianity inherited, was an identification of Yahweh with El Elyon, so that the personal God of the Hebrews and the father God of the entire area basically became merged into one entity, and they became basically the same thing. But there is this concept of God as this very old man who frankly does live in the clouds, right? So Yahweh is presented in very much the same way as Baal Hadad is. Baal Hadad is a storm god. There's tablets referring to him sort of riding the storm clouds like chariots. The same thing is said about Yahweh. There's the famous incident with the prophet Elijah, where Yahweh holds back the rain, and that's a demonstration of his power. Well, who can hold back the rain? Well, whoever controls the clouds, right? So that's Yahweh's domain. And where do you find Yahweh? You have to go up to the top of the mountain, like Moses did, where the clouds are brushing the earth, where you have the different elements sort of coming into the same plane of existence. And you can see Yahweh's feet up there on streets paved with sapphire, because that means the sky, right? So Yahweh's walking around in the sky. That's what that means. Yahweh actually does live in the sky. So the idea of an old man in the sky, in the clouds, is actually consistent with the imagery and the terminology and the way that the God existed in the stories, the deity that sort of was combined between Yahweh and Elyon. So that's not totally inappropriate, but senile, right? So that's a crack against his mental faculties. And okay, so senile. Well, you know, there is the platypus, right? And if God is the creator, God is the creator of everything, right? And created everything according to its kind, according to these different categories, right? So why do we have these weird animals that seem to transcend categories like the platypus or the echidna, the spiny anteater? Why does it look like, you know, God was kind of sloppy in creation? You can look at the human body. You know, why is the human body designed in kind of a haphazard way? Why do we have an appendix that's not used except for very vestigial? It sort of holds on to a part of the immune system that, frankly, doesn't need, because we can live without the appendix, right? But there is part of a gastrointestinal immune system that the appendix does kind of hang on to by like a toenail. But we absolutely don't need, and the liability of an appendix, in the sense that it can get infected and burst and cause septicemia, that's much worse than any benefit it might provide. Why do men have nipples, right? Why are our genitals and our urinary tract in the same system, right? So people have said, well, this is like designing an amusement park on the same place that you're designing a sewage center. That doesn't make any sense at all. It seems stupid. So is God senile? Well, you know, I mean, so those sort of boneheaded decisions might contribute to that. What about, you know, you can sort of use that label to help explain the problem of evil, right? So there's, you know, why do bad things happen? Well, maybe God just kind of forgets about checking up, and he forgets to ensure that, you know, the good things happen and the evil things don't. Maybe he's busy reading the newspaper, or you know, he's fallen asleep in his chair. He's dozed off watching Wheel of Fortune. You know, that's not a compelling reason, right? So that's not a reason why. It's not an explanation for evil that would cause you to want to worship that God, certainly. But it is an explanation as to why bad things might happen. God just sort of forgets and doesn't pay attention. And in fact, that's kind of how the ancients thought about the gods, that they needed to get their attention constantly. So they needed to do these things like sacrifices and great deeds in order to get the gods' attention. And once the gods would give you their attention, they could give you their favor. Like if they liked what you did, if they liked the sacrifice, if they felt that you were taking them seriously and you know, providing them with the respect that they deserved, then they would cause good things to happen, but only then. Otherwise, they were too busy doing the crossword or whatever, right? So it is a consistent thread in the way that gods have been conceived, and I know it's hard to make that argument with Yahweh specifically, that at least the way that he's written about, but you could say, well, maybe that's one other explanation why bad things happen, because frankly, God doesn't give an explanation, right? So in the book of Job, the book of Job is all about the problem of evil, and Job complaining why, you know, these certain things, these awful things have been allowed to happen to him, and he asks God for an explanation. Of course, we know the actual explanation is because he's doing some massive gamble with Satan. But at the end of the book, God shows up and pointedly doesn't give an explanation other than to say, I'm God, you're not, so shut up and let me do whatever I want, because I created everything. I created you. That means I know better than you, and I have more power than you. So shut up and take it and thank me for it. Thank you, sir, may I have another? And Job does apologize and thank him, and God does reward him. So the senile aspect of it, it could be appropriate. I don't know if that would be particularly compelling, though. Now, as a delinquent, right? So delinquency suggests like actual malevolence, and so is God actually malevolent? Well, he's a jealous God, right? He's a jealous God. He plays favorites. He has chosen the Hebrews as his people, and he wreaks havoc on all the other people around him when it suits him. Right. So when he wants to help the Hebrews and help the Israelites, he causes all the other people around them to be killed off, genocide. So he's happy to perpetuate genocide against all these other people whenever he feels like it. And then whenever he feels like the Hebrews aren't paying him enough attention and aren't giving him the respect and worship that he deserves, he's just as happy to let the other nations of the world crap all over the Hebrews and beat them up, destroy their homes, kill their wives and children, carry them off into exile. So yeah, I mean, honestly, if Yahweh was a teenager and the Hebrews were like little kids that he was bullying around, yeah, it wouldn't take too long before you would throw Yahweh in juvenile detention. So I could kind of see the delinquency in that now. Certainly, the character of God as presented in the Old Testament, as well as even the New Testament, because with hell that doesn't get much better. In fact, it gets a lot worse. If God were a person, I would want to have nothing to do with him. That is for sure.